Hey guys, it's Mariana and I'm going to teach you about imaginary numbers. But before we start, there are some requirements for this lesson. You will need a pen or pencil or any kind of writing utensil, some paper, and knowledge on how to simplify radicals and square roots. Please take notes and I hope you enjoy my tutorial. Let's begin. So what are imaginary numbers? Basically what imaginary number is when a number is squared and the result is negative. We know when we square real numbers, we will always end up with a positive number. For example, the square root of 4 equals 2. 2 is a positive number. The square root of 16 is 4, because 4 times 4 is 16. Same with the square root of 4 equals 2, because 2 times 2 is 4. So 4 and 16 are both positive. Negative 3 squared equals 9. But make sure you have your parentheses, so it can multiply itself. So negative 3 times negative 3 equals a positive number, which is 9, because negative times negative is 9. If you don't have the parentheses, it will only be negative 3 times 3. But because there's the parentheses, there's negative 3 times negative 3. Another example would be the square root of 0, which of course is 0, because 0 times 0 is 0. Okay, so now that you understand that, let's get to the real thing. The first thing you need to know is the symbol for imaginary numbers, which is I. You also need to know that I is a number, which means when it's multiplied by itself, the result is negative 1. Saying that, I is equal to the square root of negative 1. With imaginary numbers, you are able to find the square root of any negative number, which you normally can't. And there are two main rules for imaginary numbers. First one, never leave I in the denominator. And the second one, never leave the I to the power greater than 1. Another thing you should know about i's is that i's always come in pairs. Before we continue, I will have to give you a few more examples of why negative numbers cannot work in square roots. So a in square root of 1 is 1, because 1 times 1 equals 1, which they're both positives. The square root of 4 is 2, because 2 times 2 is 4. But having a negative in a square root is a bit different, because negative 1 times 1 equals 1, negative 1. Negative times a positive equals negative. And this cannot work because they both either have to be both negative or both positive, like 2 times 2 and 1 times 1. So this is why negatives cannot work in square roots. Another example would be the square root of negative 4. Negative 2. I apologize for this mistake. Negative 2 times 2 equals negative 4. Negative times negative equals negative times positive equals negative. And like I said before, this cannot work because we have one negative and the other one positive. And they both either have to be both positive or both negative. So, and this is where we will be using imaginary numbers when we have a negative. Okay, so I'm going to show you when i's are powered. So we know that I equals the square root of negative 1. and we can see that I to the power of 1 equals I, and I to the power 2 equals negative 1, and I to the power 3 equals negative I. If you go down to I to the power of 6 equals to I to the power of 2, which you can go back and see that I to the power of 2 equals negative 1. So I to the power of 6 actually equals negative 1. Same goes to the I to the power of 7, which equals I to the power 3. You can go and see that I to the power 3 equals negative I. So I to the power of 7 equals negative I. Same with the power of I. Same with the I to the power of 8. Sorry. This is really all about memorization check. Not memorization check. Skills. If you're not really good at memorizing, you can just write in a piece of paper and keep it with you 24/7. I recommend you to at least memorize the first 5. This will be really useful in the future, I promise. So there are 3 steps working with imaginary numbers. The first one will be getting rid of the negative. And to do so, you will have to split the radical number and convert the negative into the square root of negative 1, which converts into I. And this will be your imaginary number. The second would be to simplify the radical as much as you can. And the third step is putting it all together. Placing the I in the proper place, which is after the number, because you will treat the I as a variable. So here are some examples. So for example, square root of negative 9, you will have to split it up. So it will be the square root of negative 1 to the square root of times the square root of negative 9, because we had to get rid of the negative. So we know that the square root of negative 9 is 1 and the square root of 9 is 3. We'll treat the I as a variable, so I times 3 will equal 3I. The next example will be the square root of negative 50. We have to split it up, so it will be the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 50. We know that the square root of negative 1 is I, and the square root of square root of 50, we have to split it up, so 25 times 2 is 50. 25 is the perfect square, so that will be 5. The answer will be 5I square root of 2. There are 2 more other examples that you can look through. Okay, so that is all for imaginary numbers for today. I hope you enjoyed my video, so thanks for watching.